All right, so we are in section 9.6 where we get to factor complex quadratic trinomials. In sections prior, we factored using reverse FOIL, where we had the coefficient of our highest degree, which happened to be x squared. Our coefficient was 1. That was fairly simple to identify what the factored numbers are and what we would put inside the parentheses. Today, we have a coefficient attached to our x squared that's other than 1. So that brings us to what's a little bit more complex, and there's not an exact science in able to determine which values you get to put in to your two binomials. So a lot of it is dealing with guess and check, but there are some things we can do to um, lessen the odds, so to speak. So they call it the long and winding road is what the method is called, but I'll show you what to do. So if I have example A, I got 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. So now we have a coefficient that's other than 1 right here, so that's where we get the 2. So again, we're still doing the same thing. We're still doing parentheses, parentheses. This one ain't so bad because 2 happens to be a prime number. So when I write in, this has to be a 2x, and this has to be an x. There's no other way that it can be, because prime number is a value that can only be factored by itself in 1. And so this plus 4 means that the signs are going to be the same. This plus 9 says they're both going to be pluses. And now I need to find two values that the products will give me 4, but the sums will give me 9, but I also have to take into account this 2 here as well. So what they set up top is to list the factors of A, which in this case would just be 2 and 1, and then list the factors of C. So the factors of C here equals 4, and then the factors are 1 and 4 and 2. So the values that are going to be placed here and here are either going to be 1, 2, or 4. Okay? So let me erase this. So let's take a look here, and let's say if I put in 4 here and a 1 here. Well, now I can do is I'm going to now do my guess and check. So I got 2x squared. Now here I got plus 2x. Here I have plus 4x. And then here I got plus 4. Will this equal this? No, it won't, because this will add up to 6x. So we have to now put different numbers in. Okay? So let's do 1 and 4. So now I'm going to go 2x squared plus 8x plus x plus 4. And now that will give me, because 8x plus x will give me 9x. So the answer here is 2x plus 1 times quantity x plus 2. Okay? Here, for B, again, parentheses, parentheses. And now I can go, I need to find the values of A, or the factors of A and the factors of C. The factors of A, I need the factors of 12, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then the factors of 14 are 1, 2, 7, and 14. So any value here can be placed into these values with x, and anything in here can be placed with any of these values. Okay? So here's what I do when I try to solve these kind of problems. I really look at what I have for b. And what I have for b is 29x. I know that since the plus 14 means they're going to be the same sign, the plus 29 means they're both going to be positive. So, and there's having a plus 29 means is there's going to be a very significant gap when we're adding them together. So what I will do is this, is I'll pick something fairly in the middle in that factoring. So let's go 2 and 7. So that product will give me 14. I'm going to put an x here and an x here. And now I just look at my factors of 12 and what kind of combinations I could do that would give me a plus 29. So like say if I had, for example, if I put a 3 here, that would give me 6, and then that means I'd have to put a 4 here. So that would be like 14, or no, 28. So it'd be what, 28 plus 6, that's too much. So I didn't guess correctly. So what about if I were to put a 3 here and a 4 here? I would get 8 for the 2 times 4, and then the 3 times 7 would give me 21. And that's where I get my 29. And then 3 times 4 gives me the 12 squared. So this is how I can factor this out. So the answer is 3x plus 2 times quantity 4x plus 7. Looking at C, I have 50x squared minus 15 minus 2. So again, parentheses, parentheses. This negative 2 tells me they're going to be different signs, and the negative 15 tells me that when we add them together, their differences will sum up to be a negative 15. So before I put the plus or minus, because there's too many variables, I know for a fact that this is going to be a 2 and that's going to be a 1. This is the prime number. So now what I want to do is I want to find the factors of my a, which is 50. So I can go 1, 50, 2, 25. There's no 3. Is there 4? No. So there's 5 and 10. And then I think that might be it. So when we're dealing with this, any value combination here, I can put into the front of my parenthesis. So what I do now is I look at that negative 15, and I know it's going to be a difference, so I got to figure out 2 values that are going to help me get that. So if I use something, let's say I go 10 here and 5 here. So the 2 times 10, it's going to give me 20. And then the 5 times 1 is going to give me 5. Well, 20 minus 5 is 15. So, but now I got to do is, so I'm going to put an x here, and I need to have my larger value of those two to be the minus. So I'm going to put the minus here, and then the plus here. So that is what it looks like when it's factored out. And if we, FOIL this out, it should come out to be our original problem. So for D, again, parentheses, parentheses, I need to find the factors of A, which is 6. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 6. And then the factors of 33 are going to be 1, 3, 11, and 33. So what I'm going to do is before I put any pluses, or I know for a fact that there's going to be an x here and an x here. And what I'm going to do is I usually try to go in the middle of my C. I'm sorry, this should be a C. And I'm going to go 11 and 3 because I know that product's going to give me 33. Now I need to find something that's difference is going to give me a -7. So if I look at numbers and say, okay, well, what if I put, so if I put a 2 here and a 3 here, 2 there will give me 22, that'll give me 9, 22 minus 9, that's not 7, so now what if I put a 6 here and a 1 here? 11 times, so that's gonna be 66. And no, that's definitely wrong. Oops. Let me erase that. But what about if I put 3 here and 6 here? So 11 times 3 will give me 33. 33. All right, wait a minute. I need to put a 1 right here. That's got to be a 1. So 11 times 1 is 11. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 minus 11 will give me that 7. Okay, so that means now I have to figure out which one my larger number will come from here, so I have to make that negative and this plus. It's not really an exact science. You get better at it as you practice the problems. It's the only way you're going to get better at these kind of problems. Here is us trying to factor out when our a is negative. I've talked about in the past that I don't really particularly like having my highest degree coefficient to be a negative number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute, or I'm going to factor out a -1 into the problem. So then it will give me 21x squared plus 11x minus 2. And so all I did was I took out the negative, but I had to change each sign of my trinomial. So if I were to distribute out this here, I would get the exact same thing here. Okay? So now I'm going to go negative parentheses parentheses. And I know there's going to be a 2 here, it's going to be a 1 here because 2 is a prime number. I know 1's going to be a plus, 1's going to be a minus. I don't know which one that is at this moment, but I know that the difference will give me a positive 11. So I want to find the factors of a, which is 7, or which is 21, I'm sorry. 7 is part of it. And then it goes 1, 3, 7, 21. So let's give, I always like to start in the middle, so let's go 7. So 7 is here will give me 14. And then 3 here will give me 3. 14 minus 3 will give me 11. So I know this is x, this is x, this will be what, a plus right here, because that's going to be the plus 14, and that's where the minus, yeah. And that is our factored out. Okay, so now for b, I have negative 3x squared minus 32x plus 45. So I got parentheses, parentheses. I know, well, actually what I got to do first is I got to take out that negative. So I'm going to go 3x squared plus 32x minus 45. So I know that I need to have a 3 here and an x here. I know one of them is going to be plus or minus. And so all I got to do is find the factors of c, which is 45, which is 1, 3, 5, 9, 15, and 45. So from here, let's take a look at all the different combinations. So if I put, say if I put a 1 here and a 45 here, I would get really big numbers. So no, that's not true. So now if I go 45 and 1, so if I go 45 and 1, I get 45. That's not going to give me 32 either. So the combinations of 1 and 45 are not there, so I'm just going to take those out. So let's try 3 and 15. So if I go 3 here and 15 here, I get 3 times 15 gives me 45. If I minus that by 3, I get 42. So that's not right. So let's try 15 and 3. So now I got 15 minus 9, which is going to give me 12. So that's not right. So we found out both combinations of 3 and 15 won't work. So now all we're left with is 5 and 9. So let's see if those work. So let's try 5 here and 9 here. So that's going to give me 27 minus 5, and it's going to be 22. That doesn't work. So I got the last thing I can do is put 9 and 5. So 9 times, so that's going to be 15 minus 9. That's going to give me 6. So none of the combinations work. So if none of the combinations work, you can't factor it. At least you can't factor it into a whole number. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to solve polynomial equations by factor. This is where we get to use the zero product property in order to solve it. So let's take a look. So I have, first thing I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to divide 2 to each thing. So I'm going to go 18 squared plus 39x minus 70 equals 0. So now I'm going to go parentheses here. So I got x here and an x here. And help us out, sir. This is going to be 6x minus 7. And here's going to be 3 plus 10. I already figured out how it works, but now what we get to do is we get to use the zero product property. So I go 6x minus 7 equals 0, and 3x plus 10 equals 0. Here, my x, if I add 7 to both sides, divide both sides by 6, x here is going to equal 7 over 6. And if I subtract 10 to both sides here, divide both sides by 3, my x is going to be a negative 10/3. Okay? For b, I must subtract both sides by 3. So I get 4s squared plus 11s minus 3 equals 0. I'm trying to get one side of the equal sign to be 0. Now I can parentheses equals 0. So here I can do, I know one's going to be a 3, one's going to be a 1. So if I go just s and 4s, that's going to give me 12, that's going to be 1. Works out, so this is going to be the plus, and this is where the minus goes. And so when I use the zero product property, s here can equal negative 3. And if I go 4s minus 1 equals 0, s here could equal 1/4. All right. Last problem I have, f of x is equal to 12x squared minus 24x minus 36. Again, this is like 0 equals. We're trying to find the zeros. And I can factor out a 3 in here. So I'm going to go 0 equals to help me out here. It's going to be 3, and then it's going to be 4x squared minus 8x minus 21. So I got parentheses. So I got x here and x here. And I can put a 2 and a 2. So if I put a 3 and a 7, so I'd get 14 minus 6 would give me 8. So the minus sign would go here, plus sign would go here. And so if I go 2x plus 3 equals 0, using the zero product property, subtract both sides by 3 divided by 2, my x is going to be a negative 3 over 2. And if I add 7 to both sides divided by 2, my x is going to be 7 over 2. Alright? And that is being able to factor complex trinomials. Hope this helps. Till next time.